I just got home from a visit with a friend I haven't seen in a few years. He's going through a difficult time. And on the way to visit him and bring some gooey ginger bars and gingerbread, I stopped at the bookstore and picked up a copy of Rebecca Solnit's Hope in the Dark, because it has been a lifeline for me this year, and I thought that it would similarly be encouraging to him. And as long as I was at the bookstore, I snagged something for myself as well. It's Rebecca Solnit's No Straight Road Takes You There, which I have not read yet. So I got home and immediately started diving into it, and I'm only 24 pages in, but I want to share a little bit of it with you. I have such a tremendous affinity for Rebecca Solnit's writing, and while so much of her perspective kind of already aligns with mine, affirms my perspective on a number of issues, she tackles these concepts in a way that really gets me to think more deeply, to meditate on the subjects of hope and uncertainty, expectation, and the journey that we're actually on. The struggle to be intensely human in a world that is always trying to get us to disconnect from our humanity. Her writing is so powerful. Now, I don't know exactly where this book is going to go because I'm only a couple of chapters in, which is totally appropriate considering the title is No Straight Road Takes You There. But I want to share a little bit from the chapter that I just finished. It's entitled On Letting Go of Certainty in a Story That Never Ends. Rebecca says the unforeseen happens regularly, and then not a few people forget that it does and look forward to a foreseeable future all over again and pretend they foresaw what surprised them, flatten the bump back into their smooth version of reality. She goes on to talk about how during the pandemic, she read fairy tales aloud online, initially for her nephews and grandnieces, but all kinds of other people would get on and listen as well. Right, so she's reading fairy tales online to folks in the middle of lockdown, and she says of that period, I often told my listeners that we were ourselves in the middle of a fairy tale, and that at that moment, our difficult task was to stay home. We were in the middle and the end was not in sight. We were waiting, which is among the least favorite thing to do for most people when it means noticing that you have taken up residence in not knowing. We were in terra incognita, which is where we always are anyway, but usually we have a milder case of it and can make more of our pronouncements and stumble along and hope that no one remembers that the winner is the person we said would never win, or the catastrophe or victory is the one we said was impossible. To live in the middle of a story is to live in suspense and uncertainty about what will happen. She goes on to say, books have plots because they are finite and authored. The world has an infinite number of authors, of whom you are one. And the surprising outcomes are often due to underestimated agents, such as the nonviolent protesters who toppled the Eastern Bloc regimes in 1989, or to the potential of new viruses that epidemiologists anticipated and most of the rest of us overlooked. But we pretend that life, like art, has plots and that we know how the story ends, whether it's an election or a cultural shift or the outcome of any major event. And we often err not on the side of caution, but on the side of conventionality. The future will look like the present. This is why the financiers who determine our economic reality have been unable to fully comprehend the extraordinary decline of the fossil fuel industry, leaving them and their clients holding their many worthless bags. But the present only looks incomprehensible to those who ignore the past, which is full of the strange and unpredictable things that transpired to create this present. Reminders of how often destiny hangs by a thread and turns on a dime, how often the unexpected happens anyway. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech was not scripted. It came about because Mahalia Jackson called out to him as he was partway through a more pedestrian scripted speech. Tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream. And he pushed the paper aside and shifted into the more prophetic voice of that greatest of American speeches. It almost didn't happen. She was bold enough to call out in a historic moment. He could have ignored her, but somehow he dared to listen and was nimble enough to improvise in front of that vast crowd at the nation's capital. This is one of the things I love best about Solnit's writing. The way that she embraces uncertainty. It's like how Timothy Snyder talks about unpredictability as a type of freedom. The future is not yet known. The future is not yet written. That unpredictability means that we have the freedom to enact change and to shape the future. Solnit goes on to say, years ago when I began writing about a variety of hope that is inextricable from uncertainty, a sense that we don't know what will happen, but we might have room to participate in determining what will happen. I ran into this false omniscience again and again, and I found that a lot of people really liked certainty, even grim certainty, far more than the genuine uncertainty about what would happen next. If you pretend the future is preordained, you don't have to do anything. If you pretend you're in a familiar room, you don't have to look up like Prince Andre does, badly injured and lying on the battlefield in that scene in War and Peace, wondering why he hadn't seen the sky before. He recovers, and in a later scene, he looked up at the sky to which Pierre had pointed, and for the first time since Austerlitz, saw that high, everlasting sky he had seen while lying on the battlefield. And something that had been long slumbering, something that was best within him, suddenly awoke, joyful and youthful in his soul. It vanished as soon as he returned to the customary conditions of his life, but he knew that this feeling, which he did not know how to develop, existed within him. Though outwardly he continued to live in the same old way, inwardly he began a new life. That sense of vastness offers him, and I believe each of us, something, even though it's made of nothing you can hang on to. I really love this depiction, thinking about the future as vast as the night sky. I'll conclude here. She says, in the fairy tales I chose, the protagonists are not powerful in any conventional way, but they are active participants in their fate, leaving the unfamiliar, taking risks, changing their lives, finding people worth connecting to, reaching out to help others who will help them in return. It turns out that the powers that matter are attentiveness, innovative thinking, and alliance building. They change their fate, which is to say it's not fate or destiny at all, but an unwritten future that they seize authorship over. They don't know what will happen, but they launch into uncertainty with the energy of participants. I know here at the end of 2025, as we look back over all of the things that have happened, all of the grief, all of the terrible choices other people made, it can be really tempting to think that the way things have been for the last 12 months is how they will be going forward. But that's not true at all. And accepting, embracing the reality that the future is still uncertain, it is vast and not yet scripted out for us. And understanding, taking some time to really absorb, really know that we are not just being carted along, but rather we can be active participants shaping what happens next. I think that is so crucial, not only for us as individual human beings trying to go about our lives in a way that's really meaningful, but also in terms of for what comes next for the United States, what comes next in terms of our organizing, in terms of our community building, in terms of us, the American people, shaping the future. So I'm gonna take a break from filming for a little bit and spend some more time reading Rebecca's book. I have yet to read a single thing that she's written that has not been just absolutely excellent. So if you've not read Hope in the Dark, I think that's a really good starting place, and maybe I'll do a comprehensive review of this book once I finish it. All of her books are quite slim, very easy reads. But at the same time, I rarely finish one quickly because there's just so much that is thoughtful and causes you to spend time thinking, pondering, introspecting, realigning the way that you see yourself interacting with other people, with the present, with the future, the way that you see yourself conceptualizing of hope, potentialities, community, who we are as people, and what that actually means to be present in our own lives and our relationships with other people and in the shaping of the future. Okay, I'm gonna go read some more and I will be back in a little bit.